Naked Nation, what is going on? The lighting is absolutely terrible in here, but it doesn't matter. You're not here for my face, you're here for the fucking charts. Hope everybody's doing well today, guys. And today we are going to be going over a little bit deeper dive into Stochastic RSI. If you've been watching our live streams during this week, you might have heard me talking about this, or if you were in my Discord and you were looking in the Bare Naked Thoughts section, where I was giving you guys my latest, greatest thoughts on the market. I kind of did a quick review on it that day, and I did it yesterday on stream as well. But we're going to be going over how to read Stochastic RSI better, because I always get the same fucking questions from you guys. And it doesn't seem, well, it's not everybody, but it seems like some people really just don't understand how to use Stochastic RSIs to your advantage, how Stochastic RSIs actually relatively work, and how I personally use them to my advantage from the last video that I made on Stochastic RSIs. So if you haven't watched my last video on Stochastic RSIs, go check it out and then go back to this video, and then we'll kind of talk about it a little bit deeper. But just kind of going over where we can start right now. And a lot of people just believe that if Stochastic RSI hits a top, it doesn't matter if it's on the 27-minute, the 20-minute, the 5-minute, whatever fucking 1 day, 2 day, 1 week, whatever. We'll go over it through the video. That, oh, it's the top, or oh, it's the bottom, or this or that or whatever. It's not an indicator. If it was 100% indicator, guys, we'd be fucking rich, obviously. So you have to learn how to flow with the motion of the Stochastic RSI, or else you're just going to get wiped out and be like, oh man, this indicator didn't work out for me. The indicator didn't work out for you because they have no fucking clue how to use it. You heard someone say something about it, tops and bottoms, and the next thing you know, you think you're the GOAT because, you put in a few trades and maybe you got lucky and it worked a few times, So let's get into it and how you can use it to help understand trends better, and how to use it to be a little bit of an edge creator on the market rather than an entire full-on basic signal, right? So if we're looking at the low time frames in general, and this recent pump was a really good example of it, right? If you see you go from like an overbought Stochastic RSI and you go back to oversold Stochastic RSI, in a sense, right? We're kind of going to start from here, right? If you look at the last Stochastic RSI bottom, which was here at like 44,400, and you look at the next time it kind of starts bottoming out, which was 44,600, that already tells you there's a bullish divergence. When you want to use Stochastic RSIs, when a Stochastic RSI actually drops and the market actually drops, you want to see at least like a little bit lower than where you just came from, right? You can't just absolutely just go like, oh, if it just goes like this, right? You want to see at least a little bit lower price from the previous Stochastic RSI. If you continuously see a trend where you're going to overbought and you go back to oversold, and the price keeps getting higher, even if it's like $100, if it's like $200, right? If it keeps going higher, then you're gonna get smoked, and nobody likes getting smoked. So I'm kind of here to kind of tell you about like this, like not exactly, oh, this is the 100% way to use Stochastic RSIs, but this is like one way you can look at it and be like, oh wow, this is I can like use this to my advantage to do blank and blank and blank, right? Because if you're kind of always looking at this and being like, oh, but the Stochastic RSI we're topping out. No, it's like, hey, every time you hit a bottom Stochastic RSI, the price was higher, or at least if it's quote unquote the same, right? So in these situations, you really have to kind of be careful and be like, hey, you know what? I don't want to, I don't want to maybe short just yet, because I see a relatively bullish trend that's like continuously playing out, right? So until you see like you go back to overbought in a sense, and the price maybe doesn't go much higher, or it's like pretty much the same, then maybe you can start using that to your advantage to be like, hey, maybe there's a trend that's changing on the higher time frame, right? Just because the 3 hour Stochastic RSI is overbought here, here. If you went back in time and you broke down those 27 minutes or like lower time frames, you would have realized pretty damn fast, like, oh shit, actually, I don't think it's going to go down just yet, because if the 27-minute was bottomed out, and even though maybe the 3 hour or even the 1 hour looked like it was, maybe at that point, at the places where we circled, you see those little areas, the stochastic RSI on the 1 hour was like pretty much starting to bottom as well. So like if you're looking at the 3 hour, even though the 3 hour looks like it's about to, like, oh, it's overbought, fuck all if it matters if it's overbought or oversold, right? That's just the word, overbought, oversold, right? What's its true trend that it's trying to tell you, right? Just because it's overbought, it could be overbought bullish and it could be overbought bearish, right? And you have to figure out when it's going to be overbought bearish, because you can just kind of keep loading in shorts or loading in longs if it's going the reverse way, and you're like, why does it keep going lower? Why does it keep going higher? The stochastic RSI was bottomed, right? So I hope this video kind of helps you realize, and maybe now you'll kind of understand that, like, there's something called overbought bullish and overbought, or oversold bearish, right? To the point where what we're seeing right now is like, well, obviously the RSI is pretty damn fucking bullish. Just like if you watch my naked RSI level video where I talk about, like, hey, as long as you're ranging above 56 RSI, you're still bullish. And what a surprise, this entire fucking run up right now. Oh, wow, we're above 56 RSI the entire time. At least maybe now there's a chance of a bearish divergence, because we're seeing a higher price, but a lower RSI per se, right? We haven't seen the downturn of the stochastic RSI or anything here right now, right? So that could mean that, we're going to go, maybe it keeps pumping, and then we're going to see something like that where we see, higher price, same RSI, which is, just still relatively bullish, right? Wow, that's a shit ton of volume coming in right now. But this is the type of stuff that I want to, like, warn you guys about, where it's just like, yeah, just because it's overbought, just because the 3 hour or the daily was overbought, like if you go back down here, right? That was the same time when the stochastic or RSI did a double bottom stochastic RSI from there. And since then, we've been just kind of like pumping, right? Where we held 36 RSI, which was a bear trap RSI, right? So you really want to try to mix in the RSIs and the stochastic RSIs together in order to get yourself like a real full picture. Because if you just kind of like sit there and be like, oh, but like, the stochastic RSI said this, that, and whatever, it's just kind of like, well, who gives a fuck? It's like, yeah, that's cool, bro. It's just like, you just can't just sit there and expect an indicator to tell you exactly what to do with your life, in a sense. You got to write the story that's in front of you. And the story always begins on the lower time frames, guys. And if it's on the lower time frames, if the lower time frame says, like, hey, you know what? Maybe we're forming a small bearish divergence, then you can start to like cook ideas to be like, oh, okay, maybe now we're gonna see some kind of pullback. If we look at like the 9-minute, maybe we have to go all the way down to the 9-minute, where we're seeing, okay, what do we see on the 9-minute? Are we seeing any bearish divergences on the lower time frames? We're seeing a higher price, slightly lower RSI. It's still a low time frame, but maybe there's something cooking. Then you go to the 27-minute. You go to 27 minutes, like, I don't know, this market probably could keep pushing a little bit higher. We're at a major resistance level, 48.2, 48.3, right? To the point where it's just kind of like, write the story, because just because, an indicator says it's overbought doesn't, you might have a pullback like on this candle, and then back up you go, right? What did we see here? We see crazy amount of volume over here, right? We see all of this stuff coming out, and it kind of shows you truthfully like how this market really moves. Just because, if you go to the weekly right now, a lot of I know my charts are looking kind of nasty right now, so let me go to maybe a cleaner chart here. Right, on the weekly, a lot of people are like, oh, look at this stochastic RSI, we could be bottoming out, and maybe we are bottoming out for a little bit right now. But if you kind of really look back in history, like, just because the stochastic RSI on the weekly looks like bottomy, right? If we're looking at this pure corner right there, you'd be like, oh, wow, we might bottom here. And the next thing you know, wow, you're at 26K and you really bottom down there, right? So with weekly stochastic RSIs and weekly and above, you really want to start to look at like, how does the 2-week look like, right? Just kind of how you look at the 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. You want to kind of like cook up like, hey, what does this look like? Hey, what does this look like, right? So you really want to like try to like develop that story of like, hey, is this actually as bullish as we think? You know, what's the weekly looking, what's the monthly looking like, right? And if you can't put the story together, you know, it's not going to be a very useful indicator for you, right? If you kind of look, if you only look at the higher time frames and you think, oh, it's overbought, it has to go down here. No, not necessarily true, because if we looked at the lower time frames like we just did on Bitcoin, right? If we look at the lower time frames that we just looked on Bitcoin, 56, 56, 56, 56 bounce, middle of the Keltner bounce, middle of the Keltner bounce, middle of the Keltner bounce, right? There's not actually anything really bearish that's kind of happening here on the market to like signify like, oh, we should be shorting, right? Everybody on my stream yesterday was like, oh, should we short now? Should we short now? I'm like, why are you shorting? It's like still fucking bullish. The 27 minute is ranging very bullish. You are going to get wrecked, and if you shorted yesterday, and I told you guys not to short yesterday on stream, you are going to get wrecked. You gotta know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You gotta be able to write this story in front of you. And remember, it's not always just about indicators, right? Sometimes it's just about major areas, 48.3K. Sometimes it's about just social indicators, like what are people saying on Twitter and stuff like that, right? You have to be able to kind of look past the indicators. Let the indicators be not essentially a crutch for you, but a friend that can be like, hey, you know what, bro, this is looking kind of toppy, maybe, or this is looking kind of bottomy, maybe you should do XYZ. Maybe, you know, it isn't time to enter a position yet. Maybe you should wait for a first initial pullback, a dead cat bounce in a sense, and then short it on that to make sure you got that confirmation that it does feel good to short. You know, you could try to catch the top, but just like catching a bottom or catching a top, a falling knife, it's very difficult. And it's, you know, anybody that catches a falling knife we'll just call it a falling knife, more likely than not, probably has been stop lossed a few times before he caught it. You know, once in a while you catch it. You know, you're like, ooh, genius, you catch it, right? But I hope that kind of explains the stochastic RSI a little bit better. Truly understand, it's not going to be a long video, but truly understand, like, hey, what is the story that is being told in front of me? Is it a bullish story? Is it a bullish overbought? Or is it just like a regular bearish overbought where this is about to like push down and the prices aren't pushing higher, the RSI isn't pushing higher, right? If the RSI is pushing higher, that means people are more bullish, people are willing to buy at these higher prices and so forth, right? And what you want to aim for is like, okay, if it's pushing this high, right? That's why I have these RSI trend lines to kind of help me out, be like, oh, hey, check this out. We've done this before where we've pumped like this, and around this RSI is usually when we top out. So when you start to get into these bullish regions, you'd be like, you know what, we probably still have some pump left in it, and probably now, sometime after this video, we're probably going to dump within, I don't know, probably in the next 24 hours, because now we've kind of extended ourselves. Now we're getting back to RSI levels that we usually dump at. Just like the same thing down here below, we have RSI levels we usually bounce off at, like 18 or 15 RSI. The same thing applies at the higher RSIs as well, right? So build the story, understand the story that's being built in front of you, and use that to your advantage, because if you don't, you're going to end up fucking in a situation where you're just shorting every time because, oh, this indicator said it looks like it's a good short, but in reality, it's like a very mid-level short, and you're just like, oh, well, the stochastics are wrong or this are wrong. You know, it's a guide. It's not meant to be a guaranteed indicator. Nothing's a guaranteed indicator out there, guys. So use it to your advantage correctly, okay? Because if not, you're going to just start, you know, you can go back in time and back test it yourself. You have infinite amounts of data to go back through random time periods and just imagine you don't know the future just for a little bit and be like, okay, let's look at the RSIs. How can I like learn better without pretty much trading right now into this activity on the market, and be like, hey, I can actually use this past history, because I'm sure you didn't watch all this 27-minute play out. I mean, you might have on my stream, but you could kind of try to use this past history, be like, look at the RSIs, what's been happening, where did it change, and try to build yourself experience without playing. Like, you could just play it right now and try to, you know, obviously try to predict the future. But if you're new to trading and new to stochastic RSIs, you probably want to take a step back, learn about it a little, you know, get a grip of reality first, right? And then come back at it, and then try to take a stab at it and be like, okay, I've learned what I needed to learn, my naked RSI levels, where are we, etc., etc., right? So that's all I wanted to say here, guys. I hope that explains it. If I need to make another video, please let me know. I don't know. I don't. I think I was pretty clear here. Look for bullish divergences. Look for bearish divergences. If the price is always going up, by the time your stochastic RSI oversells, probably bullish. And the same reverse, if the price keeps going down, and by the time you go back to overbought, the price is even lower, probably fucking bearish, right? So just kind of keep that in mind to like why these levels are so important and why we need to watch out for movements and momentum and RSI and bullish divergences and bearish divergences. Because if it's truly bullish or truly bearish, you know, just like with RSI's higher price, lower RSI, you know, even on the daily, right? We go to the Bitcoin daily, everybody's like, oh, crazy bullish right now. But in reality, we're getting a same price, lower RSI from the last time we kind of hit this area. So it's just kind of like keep yourself in check, right? And if we kind of fall back down here, right? If we fall back down, the stochastic RSI goes back down to whatever oversold or close to oversold, and then you kind of notice like, hey, we're not even below 44K. What the fuck do you think is gonna happen, guys? That means we're going back up, right? Right? Just because it's oversold on the daily, right, doesn't mean that much. You know, the more oversold it is, like on maybe on the 2 week or the monthly, that might mean a little bit more. But you have to also put into context like how much, you know, like how long a weekly chart takes to play out, right? And the best information I can give you is, and it's not even like the best information, but the best information that I can give you is essentially like, think about it this way: if you're looking at any time frame, it doesn't matter what time frame, multiply it by like 9 to 12. I don't know the exact number, but usually 9 to 12 seems to kind of work, where it's just like if you're looking at the 10 minute, you're really looking at how it's going to play over the next 90 minutes. If you're looking at the 1 week, you're really looking at how the next 9 weeks are going to kind of take to play out, right? If you have an idea. So it's not just like right away, it's like, oh, we're topped out on the weekly, oh, we're bottomed out on the weekly. Stochastics can extend longer. Whether it's at the top or at the bottom, depending if we're more bullish, if we're more bearish, or whatever we are, right? So that's all I wanted to say. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, post it in the comments. What doesn't make sense? Or ask me in Discord. I have an Ask BNC questions, right? Build the story. Understand the momentum. Know your levels, just important levels in general. And that's about it. Just as a final announcement at the end of this video, guys, if you haven't heard, I've switched over relatively to BLOFIN. I'm still on Mexi, but I'm also at the same time, long story short, seeing, you know, sus things as people have reported in the past where they're weird stop losses and so forth. You know, I wrote about it a little bit in my announcement section in Discord if you want to read more. But if you guys are interested in a new futures exchange that is, I don't know, how do I say, maybe less weird on stop losses and stuff like that, you know, definitely feel free to check out BLOFIN. It'll be down in my description below. BLOFIN's a relatively new exchange. It is backed by KuCoin in a series funding, so I find that interesting at least. But they do seem to have a pretty decent setup on the platform, and it allows me to actually give back more fees back to you. So with Mexi, I was only able to do a max of 10% of trading fees back to you guys, but with BLOFIN I can do 20% or even more. I'm thinking about doing 25% at this point. I'm just kind of talking over with those guys to allow me to do 25%, because you know what, I really don't give a fuck if you guys get a quarter back of your fees back. I'm cool with it too. So that's it, guys. Take care. Brush your hair, scrub your scalp. I'm out. I'll see you guys on the Sunday stream, Super Bowl Sunday, and I think by Sunday we're gonna see a crazy little update here on the market. Take care. Brush your hair, scrub your scalp. I'm out.